Next on Unsolved Mysteries. In the Nevada desert, a young man is found dazed and confused. He says he's suffering from amnesia. The police say he's faking. On a remote riverbank, 3 fishermen stumble upon the body of a woman wrapped in a bedsheet from her own home. Some say her ex-husband knows more than he's saying. Meet Jeanne Boylan. She draws police composites with uncanny accuracy. Watch as she tries to help solve a baffling murder. And this 8-year-old girl has an amazing talent. She sees dead people. Join me for these intriguing stories, plus updates on cases solved by you. I'm Dennis Farina, and this is Unsolved Mysteries. Las Vegas, Nevada.
Do you have any pain anywhere? Can you wiggle your toes for me?
A young man is rushed to a local hospital. He has been found in the desert outside of Las Vegas, dehydrated and disoriented.
Can you tell me your name?
He has no identification and is suffering from total amnesia. The hospital staff names him Tyler.
You cannot have anything right now.
Authorities can't find a missing persons report matching Tyler's description, and his fingerprints are not in any local or national police databases. For more than 8 months, Tyler remains a man without a past and possibly without a future.
I can't go to work because I'm not eligible for a Social Security number. I can't drive a car because I don't have a Social Security number or a date of birth. And I'm starting to feel more frustrated as the days go by because I really feel this needs to come to an end. I do need to find out who I am.
Tyler was diagnosed as a genuine victim of amnesia. But when his identity was discovered after we aired his story, some began to believe that he may not have lost his memory at all. Tyler sat down with friends to watch Unsolved Mysteries that evening. Our cameras were also on hand. But even before his story aired in Las Vegas, a man from Boise, Idaho contacted us and said that he was Tyler's father. We called Tyler immediately.
But everything that I was looking to cross-referenced, and we have located your family for you.
You have?
Yes.
Our staff told Tyler that his real name is Arthur Paul Beal, but he goes by Paul. He was 23 years old, and before he was stricken with amnesia, he lived in Boise, Idaho. A few minutes later, Paul Beal called the mother and stepfather he could not remember.
Hello?
May I speak with Mrs. Beal?
This is Mrs. Beal.
This is your son.
How are you? You sound great.
I don't remember you.
I'll help you, Paul.
The emotional call lasted nearly 20 minutes.
You be strong, okay? And I'll talk to you real soon.
Okay.
Okay, honey.
Bye.
Bye.
A short time later, Paul's story took an unexpected turn.
I don't know. You don't know what your date of birth is?
The Las Vegas police showed up at Paul's apartment and arrested him for grand larceny. It turns out that Paul Beal was wanted by Boise police for stealing a shipment of frozen food.
How long have you had amnesia?
9 months.
How do you remember that if you got amnesia?
Hi, I've come to get my son.
The next night, our cameras witnessed the emotional reunion between Paul and his mother. LYNN Beal had arrived to post Paul's bail. But he still did not recognize her.
remember you.
You will. It's strange being with Paul and his not remembering anything about me, not knowing who I am. I want to push everything into his head, make him remember everything. I want to make sure I can do things to help him. I'm scared. I don't want to do something to push it back farther. I just want him to know I love him. We all love him. And I'm relieved that he's safe, he's alive. I worried so much.
The reunion was complicated not only by Paul's amnesia, but by the criminal charges against him. In Boise, Paul had worked as a salesman for a food supply company. He went to Las Vegas to sell a shipment of frozen food, but he never returned. 3 weeks later, Paul showed up with the empty truck in Boulder City, Nevada, where he was questioned but not arrested by local police.
I told him when he left, I says, Boise's gonna get a warrant for you. You know, they're gonna do it. It's gonna be grand larceny, felony. So it's just a matter of time. You better get up there and go back up there. He said, yeah, I'm going back now. I'm going right back up there and take care of the situation. It'll be fine.
It was 3 days after he was questioned that Paul was found wandering in the desert. Detective Bowen wondered if Paul was faking his amnesia.
Amnesia is easy. I don't know. Who are you? I don't know. Where are you from? I don't know. Do you know anything? I don't know. It's easy. And for a guy like him, he's convincing.
Is this the four of you?
This still isn't my son in the fact that this isn't how he would react to me. We were very close. I could tell by his eyes when I first saw him tonight that he really didn't recognize me. He wanted to. I could see it in his face. He wanted to.
Do you know your name? Can you squeeze my hand?
This is probably the most horrifying nightmare that anybody could go through, losing an identity, losing every ounce and fiber of a person's life, having it pulled away. Then 9 months later, have it given back to you, but you still don't have it. You know, I'd give anything in the world to remember right now.
Paul BEAL returned to Boise, Idaho, where he served 90 days for petty theft. His case is now closed, but one mystery remains. Did Paul BEAL fake his amnesia to avoid criminal prosecution? Or is he truly a man without a past? Next, a 22-year-old is found shot to death in his own bedroom. Westerville, Ohio. An ordinary townhouse on an ordinary street, home to a typical middle-class family, the Lombardis. CHERYL Lombardi comes home at around midnight. She assumes that her 22-year-old son, Tony, will be home shortly. At around 12:45 a.m., she hears a door closing and some footsteps.
Son?
Assuming it's Tony, she goes to his room to say goodnight. What she discovers is horrifying. A single gunshot wound to the head has killed Tony Lombardi. That morning, CHERYL Lombardi's home was swarmed by detectives. As they searched Tony's room for clues, they began to realize that the evidence pointed toward two conflicting theories. They were two different scenarios that would pit Tony's family against the police. 30 minutes after CHERYL's gruesome discovery, detectives were investigating the scene. They found a .38 caliber semi-automatic pistol on the floor, and on the bed, a single spent .38 caliber shell. In Tony's pocket, they found a citation he had received for drunk driving 2 days earlier.
DUI. Okay, thanks for the info.
Tony faced stiff fines and the suspension of his driver's license. The investigators viewed him as someone who might have been despondent over the DUI.
Right now, everything that we have and the evidence that we have indicates Tony's death was a suicide.
But Tony's family believes that there is evidence that his death was a cold-blooded murder.
I believe that there was a struggle. He had an 1.5-inch gash over his left eye. He had a broken jaw. He had bruises. The fact that he was found nude, he would never let anyone see him nude. Those are all things that I think should have been looked into.
Cheryl believes Tony's killer was still in the house when she got home that night.
Going up and down the steps, you can see my son's room, and the door was closed and there was no light on. Going up and down the steps as many times as I did, there is no way I could have missed the light being on.
Cheryl assumed Tony's light was turned off because he wasn't home. 45 minutes later, she heard the door closing. The light in Tony's room was now on. Cheryl again assumed that he had finally come home. Who could have turned on the light? Well, Cheryl believes it was the killer who became trapped in Tony's room when she arrived home.
I believe that I surprised him. And then when I went to my bedroom to get ready for bed, they thought that was a good opportunity for them to leave. And I believe that's what I heard, was someone leaving.
Tony's parents say there is even more evidence that points to murder. In the week before he died, Tony was the target of 2 different death threats.
Cut me off like that again, and I'll kill you. You hear me?
I hear you.
Where do you live? I said, where do you live?
Right here.
Good. I got it.
A neighbor saw the driver of a white pickup truck screaming at Tony. Tony's father overheard the second death threat just a few days later.
I was checking my messages and I heard this threat on our voicemail of a gentleman, a young person, telling Tony that he had a gun and was going to use it if Tony didn't stay away from his girlfriend. And at that point I brought that up to Tony and he said not to worry about it.
I told Tony that I'd talk to the guy and see what the deal was on it. And he said to me that his problem was not with me, it was with Tony, and that he would take care of it. Tony would get what was coming to him.
The lead detective on the case contacted as many people as he could, either by phone or in person, and attempted to question them about what they had said or somebody said they had said. And we found no evidence that Tony was under any immediate death threats.
The police never contacted me about Tony's death at all. I never heard from anybody about anything.
The position of Tony's body and the angle of the fatal bullet were also controversial.
Her son's head was on a couple of pillows, and the detectives removed that spent bullet from the headboard, examined the angle, and had every indication that the trajectory of that bullet was correct.
This was our son's bed that he was actually killed in. And the bullet hole in the headboard is behind the pillows. And as you can see, it's down there. And if you take a pencil and you insert that into the headboard, you can see that the bullet hole is much lower than the way I found our son.
The bullet hole does not make sense to me. Unless there was some pressure on top of Tony holding him down, the bullet would have been much higher in the headboard.
Finally, Cheryl says the county coroner found bruises on Tony's chest directly under his clenched hands. To Cheryl, that is proof that her son was forcibly held down by an assailant. Tony Lombardi's death remains clouded by controversy. The police, the county coroner, the sheriff's department, and the district attorney all agree Tony's death was a suicide.
The Westerville police sure have sympathy for the family. They've suffered a lot of trauma. But we have to deal in the facts, and the facts of this investigation reveal what happened was a suicide.
Until they open our son's case back up and change the cause of his death, I will not stop until the last breath is taken from my body. And if I do not exceed to be able to get that done, till the day I die, then I'll fight him from eternity.
If you have any information about Tony Lombardi's death, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Coming up, an 8-year-old girl claims to see and talk to dead people. Is it her imagination, or does she really have a gift? Do you remember the movie The Sixth Sense and that little boy who said that he could see dead people? Well, it turns out that there is a child who can do just that. Her name is Heidi Wyrick, and she's just 8 years old and apparently can communicate with people who have died many, many years ago.
Hello, honey.
Hi.
What's your name?
Heidi.
That's a pretty name. Heidi.
Heidi's family had just moved to Ellerslie, Georgia, a small southern town. One fall day, according to Heidi, a man named Con appeared at the front door.
And go play on that swing.
He had white hair, and he had a t-shirt on with blood all over it. And he had a bandage on his hand with blood on it. Mama?
What, Heidi?
Can I go play outside with the man?
Is it Uncle Mark?
No.
What man is it?
He has gray hair and he has blood on his shirt.
Are you sure?
I thought someone was trying to kidnap her.
I don't see anyone.
So I brought Heidi in and I locked all the doors and I got the butcher knife out of the out of the drawer, and I called my husband home. I said, Andy, you have got to come home.
We got out and we walked all up and down the street, trying to find somebody that fit that description, but we never, found nobody.
Hi there, Heidi.
Hi.
That is your name, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm Mr. Gordy.
Shortly after her visit from Con, Heidi told her mother about meeting a man she called Mr. Gordy.
Well. Would you like to go over and swing with me for a few minutes?
Okay.
I thought that Con and Gordy was the same person, so I thought his name was Con Gordy. And that's when I started asking everybody, have they ever heard of a name Con Gordy?
Lisa happened to mention Con and Mr. Gordy to her sister, who had just bought the house next door. Her sister was shocked.
Just read that right there. What? Right here, look. James S. Gordy.
When I seen Mr. Gordy's name on the deed, I was terrified. I really was, because I knew that the previous owners was there, years and years and years back. So I knew that Mr. Gordy, I knew he had to have been dead.
I knew Mr. Gordy when I was a small child. And Mr. Gordy owned a real estate company in Columbus. And for many, many years, he was Sunday school superintendent at our church up here, Ellerslie Methodist Church.
Catherine Ledford's family had owned the house that Lisa's sister now lived in. Catherine said that James Gordy was the executor of her mother's will. He died in 1974.
Let's see, we got some
Catherine
pictures.
didn't have any pictures of Mr. Gordy, but she said Heidi's description of him was dead-on accurate. He had gray hair and always wore a suit and tie and those shiny black shoes. Catherine decided to show Heidi some of her other family photos.
I was looking through the pictures and I never saw none of them people. And when I got to the bottom, there's this little bitty picture. That's the guy with the bandage on his arm and the blood on his shirt. That's Con.
Heidi had identified Catherine's uncle,
His name is
Uncle Lon.
and he's my uncle. Lon lived here when he was a young man. He died in 1957 of cancer. And he lost his hand, I would say, before he was 20 years old, in a cotton gin up here in Ellerslie.
Why don't you go ask your mom?
When I saw him, he was holding his right hand under his left hand. And he was doing that in the picture.
When I found out that it was Miss Kelly's uncle and his name really wasn't Con, it was Lon, it scared me to death because I knew Heidi was really seeing something.
For the next 4 years, Heidi continued to spend time with the friendly spirits of James Gordy and Lon Batchelor. But when her mother gave birth to a baby girl, a nasty and violent spirit came to visit.
Heidi had never been scared of anything. She had never been scared of Con. She had never been scared of Mr. Gordy. But when she seen the dark figure in a hallway, she was hysterical.
The new spirit became a frequent and sometimes violent guest.
She had just deep gashes down her face, and it terrified me. I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't imagine what could have scratched her that bad.
I thought maybe she had scratched herself during the night, and I didn't really think too much about it. So about 2 nights later, I woke up. My side was just burning like fire. Listen, what is this? I had 3 claw marks going around my side. The next night I went to sleep and I woke up and I had 3 claw marks down my back. And then it happened again the next night and I woke up and I had 3 claw marks down my chest.
I was worried to death that it was going to scratch the baby. And that's when, I was so worried, I thought, well, I've got to do something. And that's when I called Dr. Roll.
Noted parapsychologist Dr. William Roll was the logical choice to investigate.
You were standing here. And where was Mr. Gordy standing, do you think? She came up with physical descriptions and with names that she apparently could not have obtained in any ordinary way. So that immediately made me interested in the case. A couple of pictures have been found of Mr. Gordy. The hope was that Heidi would be able to identify Mr. Gordy's picture if they were presented to her with a number of other photographs. In this pile of pictures, we're looking for somebody who looks like Mr. Gordy. All right, so.
What you're watching is real. Heidi Wyrick is looking through the photographs for the first time.
That one looks like him.
That is Mr. Gordy, you're right.
Incredibly, Heidi correctly picked the photograph of James Gordy. Twice now, she had correctly identified spirits from a photo lineup.
Having spoken to Heidi and her parents, I'm even more convinced that we're dealing with genuine parapsychological experiences. Then the question comes up, why are these things happening to this little girl?
Does Heidi possess some mysterious power to communicate with the dead?
I think Heidi is special. I do. She's been seeing them for so long now. And it's just something I don't think she'll ever grow out of. She's just a special child. She's gifted, so to speak.
Heidi is now a young woman and no longer lives in the old family home. She reports that she has not seen Mr. Gordy for years. However, she continues to see the mysterious dark figure as well as numerous other spirits. The sightings are so frequent that Heidi now takes them in stride. Not even that dark, mysterious figure scares her. Coming up, a criminal composite artist, Jeanne Boylan, draws the face of a killer. When 12-year-old Polly Klass was abducted from her Northern California home and savagely murdered, police distributed thousands of copies of this composite sketch. In the end, its amazing accuracy helped catch the killer, Richard Allen Davis. The secret weapon in Polly's case was this woman, composite artist Jeanne Boylan. Without her sketch of Richard Davis, he might still be on the loose. These days, the FBI and police departments compete for her talents. They know that her drawings can help solve the most difficult of cases. In the mid-70s, Jeanne worked at a sheriff's department in Oregon, where she saw how suspect sketches were made. In many cases, Jeanne didn't like what she saw.
Was skinnier, was longer. Yeah, it's more like that.
More like that?
Yeah.
Maybe like that?
No, more like that one.
I would hear the way that investigators would question witnesses or victims, and I could hear that they weren't allowing them to answer. They would cut the answers off. It was kind of just the facts, and that seemed to me to be wrong.
Would you put any other shape around the eyes?
Jeanne knew that she could do better. She got her chance when a supervisor gave her one of his most difficult cases, an unsolved rape.
I can't remember anymore.
It's okay.
I found that if I used sort of a diversionary system of interviewing where we would kind of circumvent the events of the crime and the scenario of the crime and talk about other topics, and I could relax them, then periodically this information would surface.
You know, I just remembered something. He had a scar, and it started on his forehead, and it led back into his hair.
It's like the tip of the tongue syndrome, where you have somebody's name that's right there and you're trying to remember it. You can't bring it up, and maybe 2 or 3 hours later you stop trying and it just pops into your mind.
I just remembered something else too. He had a wide face.
I knew that the drawing that had been done on that case prior to the one that I was doing was wrong. So what we came up with was so radically different that that was sort of fresh hope for that case.
A suspect was arrested and later convicted because of Jeanne's sketch. More cases followed, and Jeanne's reputation grew.
I've seen a lot of the work Jeanne Boylan has done and very impressed. It's the best artist conceptions I've ever seen.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. The FBI turned to Jeanne in the case of 16-year-old Jonathan Francia, who was kidnapped from behind this restaurant. 5 days later, his body was found in the trunk of his torched car. One of the killers, known only as Jason, is still at large. Investigators asked Jeanne to meet with a key witness, Scott Johnston.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Jeanne Boylan. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Scott had innocently spent several hours with the killers at his home in Winslow, Arizona. Jeanne automatically sized up his potential as an eyewitness.
Visual things are very important to him. He takes some care in the way that he looks, which was the first cue to me that I would be able to work in a visual context with him. So one thing that I did was I got out some Play-Doh, something to anchor him in the present, and gave it to him to play with and sort of feel, to keep him in the moment.
I'll shave it more and then longer.
As Scott told his story, Jeanne began to sketch the killer named Jason. Scott said that he met Jason through his friend Trina Richardson. She was staying with Scott while her husband Paul was in Alabama. Early one morning, Paul returned with a strange man in the car.
Scott, what's happening?
Not much.
This is Jason.
Hi.
Come in. My first impression of Jason was, oh boy, this guy dresses like a cowboy. He had the velvet hat, the long hair, and the jacket, and the jeans, and kind of like worn out tennies.
Scott noticed something strange about Jason's hands, but he didn't notice what it was until later.
I looked down and I noticed his hand was kind of like red, kind of clay type. I thought it was just, dirt, but apparently it was blood.
Jason asked to take a shower shortly after he arrived. That was the only time that Scott saw him without a hat.
Tell me a little bit about how you would put the placement of the hair.
I would place the hair kind of like long and back, like over the ears.
Scott told Jeanne that he and Trina went out to run errands around 9 a.m. When they returned, Paul and Jason were washing the car.
We came back, pulled up, they saw us, and they shut the trunk. And they acted like they didn't want us to see what was in it.
Scott later learned that the body of Jonathan Francia was in the trunk.
Scott, you got a gas can?
No, but I can go borrow one.
Okay. So I went next door, got the gas can, came back, and that's when Trina, Paul, and Jason were outside talking.
An hour later, Trina and Paul showed Jason the way back to the main highway.
That was the last time I saw Jason. I thought that he went back maybe to Dallas or maybe somewhere else where he is, where he told me he was from.
4 days later, An eyewitness tip led police to a remote corner of the desert, 30 miles from Scott's trailer. There they found the burnt-out car and Jonathan Francia's charred remains.
He said he was from Dallas.
Paul Richardson was arrested 2 weeks later. He admitted that he and Jason had abducted and murdered Jonathan.
We took it.
2 days after his confession, Richardson committed suicide by hanging himself in his jail cell.
Would you create a division between the brows? Would you have it connected?
It was now up to Jeanne to help find Jason.
Okay.
When I first seen the composite, it looked pretty much like the same person that I've seen in the trailer. Pretty close. I was amazed at how well it, turned out.
Okay, is there anything else you'd add to it?
I believe that Ms. Boylan has a magician's touch in dealing with witnesses and has a way of just extracting a photo from their mind, if you will.
Jeanne's sketches of the man called Jason have provided some hope for Jonathan Francia's family.
It would set our hearts a little, give us a little ease in our heart. Can't bring our son back, but it'll put him where he belongs, and that's what we need.
If there's some way that this contribution can help bring some peace to them, then I would be delighted.
Jeanne drew 3 portraits of the man known as Jason. Authorities believe he has relatives in either Pine Top or Payson, Arizona, and also in Dallas, Texas. Jason is described as 5 feet 10 inches with a medium build. He smokes, chews tobacco, and wears Western-style clothes, including a horsehair belt. If you have any information about this case, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, Brenda and Jerry seem to be working out their divorce amicably until she disappeared. Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello?
2 of Brenda Bowen's friends stop by her house. They are worried because she didn't show up for her regular prayer meeting.
Sweetie? Brenda?
But Brenda is nowhere to be found.
Hello? Anybody home?
Within hours, a Shelby County sheriff arrives to investigate.
Brenda's clothes were laid out on her bed as if to dress after her shower. On her dresser was her jewelry. Everything was laid out real nice and neat. Her curling iron was in the own position in the bathroom, but there was no other signs that, Brenda was there at all.
Brenda lived a life most would envy. She was blessed with 2 healthy teenage children, a thriving real estate business, and a beautiful home in the Alabama countryside. Her friends and family couldn't figure out why she would suddenly vanish.
When Brenda went missing, it was devastating to us. I stayed at home. I thought she might call, but in my heart I knew that something had happened to Brenda, something bad.
The only difficulty Brenda had experienced was her divorce from her ex-husband, Jerry Lee Bowen. 2 years earlier, their 19-year marriage had suddenly fallen apart.
They were together for about 18 or 19 years. But Jerry got out and found a girlfriend. He asked her for a divorce.
Jerry, you've agreed to give Brenda complete and unencumbered use of the house until your daughter turns 19.
With the help of a divorce attorney, Jerry and Brenda separated on good terms. They even agreed to a very unusual living arrangement. Jerry would live in the guest house behind the main house. He also gave Brenda most of the couple's assets. Their arrangement worked out well until Jerry ran into some money problems.
I'm asking for your help here.
I don't know, Jerry. You're asking me to live a lie.
It's only a business arrangement.
And he told her he was in financial trouble and they had to get back together. He had to have some relief. Brenda's answer was, I'd have to think about that, Jerry.
Jerry, we can talk about it in the morning.
I'm gonna take you back to court.
4 days later, Brenda disappeared.
Anything you'll find, I want bagged, I want it filed.
Police began their investigation at the Bowen home. Jerry cooperated with the police. He even told them what he thought had happened to Brenda.
As I started to leave, Jerry says, well, Don, what do you think happened to Brenda?
Well, let's just hope she's on a beach somewhere down in Florida, tanning her buns.
You're wrong. She's dead.
I said, well, if she's dead, where do you think we could find her? And Jerry looked at me and he says, you could find her in water somewhere.
You got a call about an abandoned vehicle?
That same night, police found Brenda's car stuck in the mud 43 miles from home.
We found her purse, we found a cell phone, there was checkbooks there. So that told us that this was not a robbery.
And this here's the Bowen's boy.
Brenda's son asked a troubling question about the car.
I was wondering what the position of the driver's seat was in.
All the way back, right?
Yeah, it was all the way back.
Well, my mom, she's only 5'2".
With the car seat completely pushed back, Brenda's feet could not reach the pedals. But the strangest question of all came from Jerry, who unexpectedly appeared at the crime scene.
Is that the car that belongs to the woman who's missing?
Yes. Now, this was his ex-wife's car. He knew whose car that was. And it turned out later to be a question that we felt was very important to pinning down as to who was responsible for Brenda's death.
Jerry was taken to the Shelby County Sheriff's Office for questioning. His behavior continued to raise red flags.
He was not of any help to us whatsoever. He showed no concern for her well-being, and during the process of the interview, he actually went to sleep.
Jerry's friends and family insisted that he was just in shock and devastated over Brenda's disappearance.
Jerry was very concerned about her, but he was also upset that the police thought it might be him. He said often that he was innocent, so there was no way he was going to be pinned with a murder.
They stripped him down. They checked him for any cuts or bruises or bites or anything. They didn't find a scratch on him anywhere. But they got in his face and told him, we know you did something to her, whatever happened to her, we know you did it and we will prove it. And they had tunnel vision from that night on.
-0 doubt in my mind that Jerry Bowen killed my daughter Brenda. No doubt.
But there was no evidence linking Bowen to his wife's disappearance, so he was released. Several months later, 3 fishermen saw something floating in the murky waters of a nearby river. It was Brenda's body, bound and tied inside a sheet. The coroner could not determine the cause of death because the body was so badly decomposed.
When Brenda Bowen's body surfaced, she was, for lack of a better way of saying it, packaged in a certain manner.
We got the call late this afternoon. There's 3 fishermen found the body.
Around her body was a green top sheet off of a bed. Around that was a length of nylon rope.
The sheet was positively identified as coming from the Bowen home, and there were 2 strange things about the rope. First, it was tied with 2 specific knots, a bowline and a slip knot. And second, the ends had been deliberately burnt.
The son asked to look at the rope that was around his mother's body, and he looked at it and tears filled his eyes. He said, I've seen that same combination of knots from Jerry Bowen dozens of times. He said, I've never seen anybody else do it. In addition to that, every time Jerry Bowen cut a piece of nylon rope, he would take a cigarette lighter and burn the ends of it. The knots, the car seat, the burned ends of the rope, it all starts pointing back to Jerry Bowen.
Jerry Bowen was arrested. The case against him was almost entirely circumstantial except for one crucial element. Bowen did not have an alibi for the morning his wife disappeared. At his trial, a jury took only 6 hours to convict him. But the bizarre story of Jerry Bowen does not end with his conviction. While he awaited sentencing, Bowen was released on bond. The day of his hearing, his sister received a goodbye letter. It read, "This may be a dumb move on my part, sis, but I don't feel that I should serve time for a crime that I didn't commit. Therefore, I'm running."
When Jerry was convicted, my thoughts was, it's payday. When Jerry fled, I felt like payday evaporated.
The FBI descended on Bowen's home looking for clues as to where he might have gone. They were shocked by what they found on his computer. Thousands of violent and sadistic pornographic images.
Jerry is very polite, respectful to others, but when he's back in his own secret place within his own residence, the bizarreness of his behavior starts to emerge when he's visiting websites of women being abused, tied up, shackled and tortured, as well as a fascination for pregnant women that are naked.
There was no evidence recovered from Jerry's home that would help detectives find a convicted killer. Then, his story aired on Unsolved Mysteries. Update. After our broadcast, one of our viewers notified authorities that a man she knew as Stephen Starbucks looked exactly like Bowen. When police arrested Starbucks, he denied that he was Bowen, but his fingerprints confirmed his identity. Bowen was sentenced to life in prison for the brutal murder of his wife. He will not be eligible for parole until December 2019.